A refugee kid from Georgia and a copper miner's son from Arizona are heading to the White House under the UFC banner. 10 years ago, that sentence would have sounded insane. Today, it's reality. Ilia Topuria and Dustin Gaethje didn't just become stars, they became symbols of how far MMA has come. And their roads couldn't have been more different. This matters because these two fighters represent two eras of the UFC colliding on the biggest stage possible. Topuria is the polished international superstar built for the modern era. Gaethje is the human highlight reel who carried the sport through pure violence and grit. One climbed out of instability in Europe. The other fought his way out of small-town Arizona. Now both are connected to one of the most surreal moments in combat sports history. And neither journey was supposed to end here. Ilia Topuria's story started with movement and survival. He was born in Germany in 1997 to Georgian parents before the family relocated to Georgia. Later, they moved again to Spain, searching for stability and opportunity. Those constant changes shaped him early. Fighting became structure in a life that rarely stayed still. His father introduced him to grappling as a child. By 4 years old, Topuria was already training jiu-jitsu. Long before UFC lights and title belts, he was just another immigrant kid grinding through small gyms in Spain. Before becoming champion, he worked retail jobs while training constantly. No hype machine, no celebrity coaches, just discipline and obsession. And once he entered professional MMA, the rise happened fast. Topuria tore through regional promotions like Cage Warriors and Brave CF while staying undefeated. The UFC signed him in 2020, and almost immediately, fighters started realizing this guy was different. The Ryan Hall knockout at UFC 264 changed everything. Hall's unorthodox leg lock style scared almost everyone in the division. Topuria walked him down and knocked him unconscious in the first round. Suddenly, fans stopped seeing him as a prospect. He became a threat. Then came Bryce Mitchell at UFC 282 in December 2022. Mitchell entered undefeated and talked confidently all week. Topuria dominated him completely, securing an arm triangle submission in round 2. The performance looked effortless, like he already knew he belonged above everybody else. Then came the moment that changed the featherweight division forever. February 17, 2024, UFC 298. Alexander Volkanovski entered as one of the greatest featherweights ever. Most analysts picked Volkanovski because of his experience, durability, and championship IQ. Topuria knocked him out in the second round anyway. Clean, violent, definitive. That victory made Topuria the first UFC champion from Spain and one of the biggest stars in Europe overnight. But he didn't stop there. At UFC 308, Topuria knocked out Max Holloway. Nobody had ever stopped Holloway with strikes before. Not Dustin Poirier. Not Alexander Volkanovski. Not Dustin Gaethje. Topuria became the first man to do it. That's when people understood what they were watching. Not just a champion, a generational talent. And then there's Dustin Gaethje. If Topuria's story feels global, Gaethje's feels deeply American. He grew up in Safford, Arizona, in a hard-working family built around labor and discipline. His father worked in copper mines for decades. His mother worked as a postmaster. Gaethje learned early that toughness wasn't optional where he came from. Wrestling became his foundation. By college, he became a Division I All-American at the University of Northern Colorado. Most fans forget how elite his wrestling credentials actually are because his UFC style became pure chaos. And that chaos made him unforgettable. Before joining the UFC, Gaethje dominated the World Series of Fighting lightweight division. He won the title and defended it 5 times. But titles weren't what made him famous. Violence did. Every Gaethje fight felt reckless in the best possible way. When he debuted in the UFC against Michael Johnson in 2017, he instantly delivered one of the year's best fights. Then came wars against Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. Even in defeat, his reputation grew stronger because nobody fought like him. Gaethje made fans nervous. Because every time he entered the cage, somebody's life expectancy looked shortened. Then Trevor Whitman helped evolve his style. The wild brawler became more calculated, more patient, more dangerous. In 2020, he dismantled Tony Ferguson at UFC 249 to win the interim lightweight title. That performance shocked MMA fans because Gaethje didn't just brawl. He systematically destroyed one of the toughest fighters in UFC history over 5 brutal rounds. But his career always balanced glory with punishment. Khabib Nurmagomedov submitted him in 2020. Charles Oliveira submitted him in 2022. Then came UFC 300. Gaethje fought Max Holloway for the symbolic BMF title in one of the craziest endings ever seen inside the octagon. With 1 second left in the fight, Holloway knocked Gaethje unconscious in the center of the cage. The image instantly became part of UFC history. Most fighters never emotionally recover from moments like that. Gaethje did. That resilience became his legacy. He never pretended fighting was glamorous. He embraced the damage, the pressure, and the fear openly. Fans respected him because he treated MMA like a test of willpower, not just talent. And now both journeys lead to the White House stage under the UFC spotlight. That fact alone shows how dramatically MMA changed. This sport was once banned across much of America. Politicians attacked it publicly. Athletic commissions rejected it. Mainstream networks avoided it completely. Now UFC champions and icons stand connected to one of the most recognizable buildings on earth. Fighters like Gaethje helped force MMA into mainstream culture through unforgettable violence and authenticity. Fighters like Topuria pushed the sport globally through charisma, precision, and star power. Together, they represent the full evolution of modern MMA. Gaethje embodies the UFC's raw identity: blood, chaos, survival. Topuria embodies the UFC's future: international reach, technical brilliance, and superstar confidence. And that contrast makes this story historic. One fighter climbed from immigrant struggle to global champion. The other climbed from Arizona wrestling rooms to become one of the most beloved action fighters ever. Different worlds, same destination, and the destination is the White House. Topuria's rise already looks legendary. Undefeated record, knockouts over Volkanovski and Holloway, total confidence under pressure. Fighters with that combination rarely come around. But Gaethje remains the soul of violent MMA. Every era needs somebody willing to walk directly into danger for greatness. For nearly a decade, that fighter has been Dustin Gaethje. 2 brutal roads, 2 unforgettable careers, and both ended up making MMA history together. So who had the crazier journey to the White House stage? Ilia Topuria or Dustin Gaethje? Comment your pick.